my question to you, which I don't want to ask you, but I'll ask a good friend of mine to ask you that. His name is Sandeep Kera. He's the CEO of the listed Persistent System, an Indian US company, which is the world's leading digital transformation company in the world with 22,000 staff. Now, I asked Sandeep to ask this week's BCG Minute question, and here it comes.
Hello, my name is Sandeep Kalra. I am the CEO of Persistent Systems, the world's leading digital transformation and enterprise modernization firm. My question for the M&M panel is, in this new world of work from anywhere with seamless demands on your time, how do you partition out time for things that matter? I can't wait to hear your response. Thank you.
Nice. And yeah, it's like it starts with you and how you want to allocate your time, and you have the power presumably over your calendar. I would add to that if you're a leader in a sizable organization, if that word leader means anything, it should mean that you are looking at a longer time frame, that you can think a year or two or three out, and you're asking, where should we be investing? What are the new opportunities? How do I protect those young projects so they have the chance to grow? So one thing is you need to devote times to things that are not like next 30, 60 days. And the second part of that would be devoting time to issues that are fundamental, that are key to building long-term capability in your organization. And you asked earlier, Martin, about where does culture live anymore? Or maybe that was in our pre-conversation. We're saying we thought HR would be responsible for culture, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And I think leaders are responsible for culture, but they in my experience, they often don't think about it in the right way. Culture is an abstraction. What drives culture is every system, every process, every bit of information that in an organization either rewards and strengthens certain behaviors or others. So if you want an organization that is more empathetic, more customer focused, more innovative, choose whatever it is, you have to actually do a lot of hard work of looking at, what is our promotion criteria? How do we evaluate projects? What kind of people do we hire? Looking at all of these things that every day are giving people cues on what gets you ahead here or what doesn't. And you have to be able to change that. And I think, I would add one thing to this earlier conversation about, what can a CEO really do? And I think, what is daunting, I think, to many CEOs is if you look at the systems and processes by which the company runs itself, these are all very deeply embedded. They're all integrated together, very, very difficult to change. And very hard to change from the top down, right? If you say, let's get together, let's design a new culture, let's design any change program from the top, or we try to anticipate all the best ideas, and we're gonna lay it all out, and then we're gonna roll it out. One of the things I believe more and more, this is from practice, not theory, is as a leader, if you wanna change anything, you have to recognize that increasingly, change is socially constructed. It's not a top-down thing. It doesn't roll out, it has to roll up. So I think the first part is exactly what Roger said. You have to live out whatever change you want to have happen. I mean, people have to see it in you. It has to be authentic, because people in organizations, they are immensely cynical. They will see any split between rhetoric and behavior very quickly and write it off. So you need that for sure. But that is only a relatively small leader, that authenticity and the one-on-one conversations. What we've been doing is using platforms to bring in the case of Apple, bring 70,000 people together and start to have a conversation about what do we need to do differently and where can we innovate and so on. Or in other organizations where today you can invite the whole organization simultaneously to have this conversation with you. And I think what a lot of CEOs have not really quite admitted to themselves yet is they are already no longer in control of the conversation. People are connecting laterally across the organization. They are communicating. They have their point of view on how effective you are, where the company is going, or whether you have the right strategy, or whether you really take customers as seriously as you say you do. And they're also very willing to help you solve those challenges, but only if you ask them, and only if you can involve them in a disciplined way where you get literally hundreds of hacks and you have the peer review and you choose the best ones and you start to experiment. But I believe very, very deeply that the pace at which you can change anything is given by the number of experiments you run. And most leaders really don't if you ask them, like, tell me where you're experimenting with new ways of leading, managing, organizing work, where you're doing it purposefully against hypotheses, rolling up the things that really work. They don't even think that way. They still think of change as something we kind of put together at the top, we roll it out. And then here'd be my last point. Every CEO I know says my organization needs to change faster. And if you have the follow-up question, well, what makes change difficult? Almost everyone will say people are against change. And you got to go like, wait a minute. Like, you told me we live in this world where we have like more change than ever, and it's disruptive and surprising and seditious and so on. And yet you're telling me your people are against change. Like, are they like some different part of humanity? Like, it's rubbish. Like, people, we love change, but in most organizations, change has meant something top down, something that is mandated, that works better for the few than the many, where the global solutions are often unworkable on the ground. And what you haven't asked me is, will you help me do this? Can I give you a share of voice? Can we build this together? And our experience when you do that, when for the first time you ask people in an organization, help us reinvent the organization to which you're giving your life, like, you get an explosion of passion and commitment and energy that you will never get if what you're trying to do, and I love Roger's thing of making it retail, you'll never do if you're trying to merchandise something top down.
That's fascinating to me. And if I can just build on something Gary got me thinking about many things, as he always does, but one thing was on what systems and processes reward what behavior. I think that is really important. And on that front, there are often systems and processes that implicitly reward busyness. Right. So if somebody is super busy, right, then they must be valuable and they must be important. I take the opposite view for what it's worth. I do not trust people who are really, really busy. Right. I don't trust them to get stuff done because essentially almost anybody who's decent at their job can come to the job in the morning and list the 10 most important things on their plate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in order. The difference between really, really successful people and less successful people is as simple as the less successful people start with number 10 and work their way up, and the most successful people start with number 1 and work their way down. What happens if you start with number 10 and work your way up? You never solve the big problems. And so there are always new problems that get it on. And so you're perpetually busy behind, as Gary said several times, on your back foot. If you start at number 1, typically you don't know it at the time, but number 1 actually was the causal relationship between number 6 and number 9 and number 10. And they go poof as soon as you solve number 1, and you kind of get less busy. And you get to tackle the next morning the new number 1 and the new number 1, and you're more in charge and in control of your life and doing all the stuff Gary talked about, thinking about the longer term, etc. But if you've got a system that says, let's assume busyness, hours worked, franticness, tiredness is all those are all the best signals of an awesome employee, then you're going to get people acting busy and thinking that if they're not busy, they're ineffective. If they're not as busy, their chances are they're more effective.